was a time when the world was plunging into darkness and chaos. A time of witchcraft and sorcery. A time when no one stood against evil.
In his lifetime, Solomon Kane had slaughtered countless men without remorse, until death itself came to claim him, declaring that a place in hell had been reserved in his name.
There was a deal, and your soul is the price.
Desperate to survive, Kane swore a solemn oath to never draw his blade again, enduring even the humiliation of bandits without resistance. Yet fate, in its cruel irony, delivered him an impossible ultimatum. To reclaim his soul, he would have to break his vow, and once more become the merciless demon of war, a specter so terrifying even the devil trembled. The year was 1600, in the war-torn and black, magic-infested chaos of North Africa. Kane, the ruthless English mercenary captain, led his band of cutthroats in an assault on an Ottoman fortress. For him, this was just another bloody raid, another chance to plunder wealth and glory. Mercy was a word absent from his vocabulary. Conquest was all he craved. With a single command, cannons roared, gates shattered, and Kane charged into the fray, his twin pistols spitting fire, his sword carving through flesh. Wherever he passed, only severed limbs and corpses remained. But something was wrong with this fortress. As they penetrated its heart, they found no gold or treasure, only rows of eerie mirrors.
There's something in here with us.
No treasure's worth this.
Silence, you dogs.
Kane's men scattered in terror, for the legendary demons had not spared these greedy invaders. A creeping, nameless dread filled the darkness.
Oh. I found it. Here it is, boy.
As Kane stepped alone into the treasure chamber, his eyes lit up at the sight of the riches just ahead. Then he noticed a terrifying figure lying motionless on the ground nearby. The creature wielded a flaming sword, its voice like the tolling of hell's funeral bell. It told Kane that his lifetime of greed and bloodshed had sealed a pact with the devil, one he had never signed, but which his actions had forged. Faced with the sword that could shatter all existence, the once invincible captain felt true fear for the first time.
The Lord protect me!
In a desperate gamble, Kane shattered a window and hurled himself into the raging sea below. A year later, in the rain-soaked hills of England, Solomon Kane, the butcher, was gone. In his place was a broken pilgrim, taking refuge in a monastery. To evade the demon that haunted him, he had donated all his wealth to the church. He spent his days kneeling on cold stone floors, praying, his body covered in holy script to ward off evil. He sought redemption through extreme penance, desperate for peace. But the monastery was not his sanctuary. The old abbot cruelly informed him that divine prophecy had spoken. His destiny lay elsewhere. He had to leave.
Solomon, you must leave us.
Why? I live here in solitude. I do no harm. I have renounced my evil ways, my power. I'm learning to be a man of peace.
I know you are, but your future is not here with us.
Kane was devastated. Stepping beyond the holy grounds meant exposing himself once more to the demon's gaze, but he had no choice. Shouldering his pack, he trudged into the muddy, desolate wilderness of England, a land far from peaceful. A malevolent force known as Malachi was spreading its corruption across the countryside. On his journey, Kane encountered the Crosons, a kind and simple family bound for the new world in search of a better life. William, the father, was upright and brave. Catherine, the mother, gentle and kind. Their eldest son, Samuel, was young and hot-blooded, while their youngest daughter, Meredith, possessed a pure, healing smile. At first, Kane refused their offer to travel together. However, while he was resting, he ran into a band of thieves. The thieves found a book of witchcraft in his bag. They thought Kane was a wizard, so they pinned him to the fire, and prepared to burn him alive. Breaking free, Kane glared at the thieves with a fierce, menacing look.
I will not fight another man. I have renounced violence.
Well, that's a shame, because we haven't.
When he awoke, he found himself inside their warm wagon, with Meredith tending to him with care. This family did not reject him for his fierce, intimidating appearance. Instead, they offered him the warmth of home, a feeling he had not known in years. By the firelight, Kane confessed his past. He admitted he had once been a demon, a monster of a man. William, however, told him that while the path to God's redemption was narrow, it was never closed.
Satan's creatures will take me should I stray from the path of peace.
Then do not stray, Master Kane.
Peace, however, was fleeting. They passed through a ruined village reduced to ashes. Kane and William surveyed the area together. They found that everyone was already dead, and their eyes were missing. In a corner, Meredith discovered a surviving girl. The group decided to take the child with them. That night, William asked the girl what had happened to the village. She told them that the villagers had tried to burn a witch at the stake, and everyone had come to watch, but the fire never touched her. The witch had laughed and told them all that her followers could now walk freely upon the earth. The girl said the witch had killed everyone and burned out their eyes, because they had come to witness the ritual. Just then, William suggested they pray together, but the girl fiercely protested.
We should pray.
I'm tired.
Kane noticed something was wrong and handed Edward's cross necklace to the little girl. The girl was the witch herself. Her goal was to take Meredith away. The demonic power was spreading, possessing human bodies and turning them into demons. Among them were the same thieves who had attacked Kane earlier. Samuel told Kane he had heard strange voices. Kane saw a group of demon-possessed people trapping humans in cages. He ordered Samuel to go back and warn William, telling them to leave immediately. When Samuel returned, he found the demon attacking his family. Kane could have drawn his sword and ended their lives in seconds. He had sworn an oath. If he resorted to violence again, his soul would be damned forever. But this was only the beginning of the nightmare. Leading them was a terrifying knight, masked and mounted on a black steed. These men were not after gold. They seemed to be searching for someone specific. The masked knight's gaze immediately locked onto Meredith. There was something special about her, a mark of some kind. The slaughter erupted instantly. He heard Catherine's desperate screams. The worst came when William was impaled by the knight's lance. With his last breath, William gripped Kane's hand and spoke a prophecy that would change everything. Time seemed to freeze. Blood stained the ground. A family was shattered. The sound of hooves and Meredith's cries faded into the distance. As Kane stared into William's fading eyes, something inside him shattered, and something older, darker, and far more terrifying awoke. If God would not grant him peace, then he would carve his own path to heaven with his sword. Kane picked up the blade from the ground, its cold touch familiar. He swore over William's body. He would not rest until Meredith was saved. The path of vengeance was lonely and bloody. Following the monster's trail, Kane arrived at an abandoned church. There was no sanctity here, only the stench of rotting flesh. A mad priest greeted him and invited him to the basement. What Kane saw there made him sick. The so-called congregation was a horde of ghouls, transformed by dark magic, feasting on the flesh of travelers. The mad priest shrieked that this was the revelation of the end times, that humanity would become food for demons. Kane drew his sword, his expression cold. He was no longer the meek pilgrim who endured humiliation. He was the warrior who struck without hesitation. As he delved deeper, Kane discovered that the source of this evil was a sorcerer named Malachi, and the lair of this sorcerer was none other than Kane's homeland, Axholm Castle. This explained why the old abbot had insisted he return home. It turned out that the root of all this sin was his own bloodline. On the road to the castle, Kane was ambushed by thugs, nailed to a cross, and left for dead.
This is the fate of those who defy Malachi! There will be no mercy!
As he hovered on the brink of death, a band of rebels came to his rescue. Coincidentally, their leader was one of Kane's former lieutenants. They recognized the once feared captain, even though he was now a shadow of his former self. The killing instinct, however, still burned in his bones. Kane learned that Malachi the sorcerer had seized control of the entire region, enslaving the people and turning rebels into mindless ghouls. The masked knight, the sorcerer's most ruthless enforcer, was none other than Malachi's right hand. To save Meredith and put an end to this evil, Kane decided to lead this ragtag band of rebels in an assault on the seemingly impregnable castle. It was a suicide mission, but Kane had always thrived in impossible odds. Using his knowledge of the castle's secret passages, he avoided the main defenses and led a strike team into its heart. In the depths of the dungeon, Kane finally stood before his own father, the one who had set all this tragedy in motion. The old lord was chained in the darkness, a hollowed-out shell of a man. Upon seeing his son, he wept bitterly and revealed the truth. Years ago, when Kane had fled after rebelling against his father's tyranny, he had believed he had accidentally killed his brother, Marcus. But Marcus had only been gravely wounded, left in a coma. Desperate to save his son, the old lord had made a deal with the devil. He had invited Malachi into their home. The sorcerer had revived Marcus, but the price was not gold. It was the souls of the family. Marcus, resurrected, was no longer human. Corrupted by the power of a cursed mirror, he had become a monstrous enforcer, the masked knight bound to Malachi's will. The old lord, consumed by guilt, had allowed himself to be imprisoned, his life force sustaining the sorcerer's power. He told Kane that the only way to weaken Malachi was to kill him, severing the cursed bloodline. Kane stared at his remorseful father, his heart a storm of conflicting emotions. He had once hated his father's cruelty, which had driven him into exile and damnation. But now, to end this nightmare, he had to commit patricide. With a single gunshot, the old lord fell, his face etched with a smile of release. The castle's alarms blared. The final battle had begun. Meredith was bound to an altar, about to be sacrificed to open the gates of hell. Standing between Kane and her was the masked knight, his own brother, Marcus. It was a battle of unequal strength. Marcus wielded unnatural power and speed, each strike carrying the force of 1,000 men. Though Kane was a seasoned warrior, he was no match for such supernatural might. As Kane was knocked to the ground, Marcus's blade poised to pierce his heart. He locked eyes with Meredith. Her desperate gaze reminded him of William's dying words, of the promise of redemption. With a roar, Kane unleashed a surge of sheer will. With agile footwork, he dodged the fatal strike. Seizing the moment, he struck off Marcus's helmet. The face beneath was barely human, but in those eyes, a flicker of agony remained. With tears in his eyes, Kane ended his brother's torment. But the true enemy still stood. Malachi, sensing his doom, attempted to summon a demon lord from the depths of hell through the mirror. A monstrous creature of molten rock and black smoke emerged. It was the same death that had once hunted Kane in North Africa. Kane stood between the fire and the ruins, facing the nightmare that had once driven him to flee. This time, he did not retreat. He looked at Meredith, bound to the altar, and felt an unprecedented calm. But instead of firing at the demon, he aimed for the source of its power, the cursed mirror. With a deafening shot, the mirror shattered. The demon's connection to this world severed. It let out a furious howl as its body crumbled, dragged back into the abyss. In its final moment, its burning claws swiped at Kane, grasping only empty air. As Malachi was consumed by his own dark magic, the castle's curse was lifted. Morning sunlight broke through the clouds, bathing the ruined fortress in golden light. The curse that had haunted him for years, the suffocating dread that had followed him like a shadow, was gone. His soul, at last, was redeemed. But this was not the end. Kane declined the rebels' offer to stay and rule as their lord. Instead, he donned his signature black duster coat, his wide-brimmed hat, his twin pistols, and his long sword. Once, he had been a killer for greed. Later, he had been a coward fleeing his sins. Now, he was a warrior for justice. In this world, countless evils like Malachi lurked in the shadows, and countless innocents like Meredith needed protection. If God had not yet claimed his soul, then his mission was not yet complete. In this age of chaos and darkness, demons might rise again from the depths, but they would find someone waiting for them. His name was Solomon Kane, hunter of demons, and the wrath of God.